So we've got the Asus Zenbook Prime UX32VD here, which has Intel Core i7 1.9 gigahertz ULB CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, and we're running it with the NVIDIA GT620M dedicated graphics. It has both 4000 Intel HD 4000 graphics and the NVIDIA, so of course we're going to run it with NVIDIA, and the NVIDIA Optimus software takes care of switching, and so far it's done a good job and has switched over. And you can see the settings we're using in Skyrim. These are the playable settings. We can show you what it looks like at higher settings, but we've gone down to 1366 by 768. We've turned off anti-aliasing and anisotropic filtering, and we have gone with mostly low and medium settings. We've got texture quality high, blur is low, shadow detail is medium, decal quality is medium, reflected land, yes, FXAA, but all the other reflections turned off. View distance set pretty conservatively. So frames are healthy in the mid-40s here at these settings, very playable. Not a huge amount of detail with these settings, but not too bad either. A little fighting is not a problem. Yeah, our frame rate's even getting higher now.
Now you're mine. Enough of this.
So there it is, very playable. And now we're back at the beginning of Skyrim again, and we'll show you what it looks like if you play with the default settings that the application actually wanted, which is a full 1920 by 1080. It wanted anti-aliasing at 8 samples and anisotropic filtering at 8. I can tell you right now that's going to be so far out of the water. We're just going to shoot for 2 and off there. Change that a little bit. And we've got high, medium, high, and high for our advanced settings, and a slightly deeper visual distance here. We're going to give that a try. And now you can see we're down to 23, 24 frames per second. So not really so playable anymore. But the GT620M is, after all, a fairly low-end card, and this is a fairly demanding game. And now we're in Left 4 Dead 2, which is a pretty easygoing game. So we're going to go for the full Monty here, 1920 by 1080, full screen. A great amount there. Anti-aliasing, let's go for a little anti-aliasing here. Medium for our shaders. Effect detail, that's good. And we'll go for multi-core rendering because, well, we have a multi-core, and see how that goes. Alright, so now we're into the action. Pretty good frame rates, upper 40s to upper 30s sometimes. Very playable considering the nice high settings. Again, Left 4 Dead 2 is a pretty forgiving game. You don't need a super high power computer to play this. It even works on Intel HD 4000 graphics, so I would say this is definitely faster and smoother.
That takes me up real good. Goddamn elevator's out. We gotta get around this fire.
So that's left for Ted to do on the Asus Zenbook Prime UX32VD with dedicated graphics. Now we're in Civ 5. Now this game isn't so demanding when it comes to graphics capabilities, but it is demanding of the CPU because, well, it's a turn-based strategy game, and the computer has a lot of thinking to do when you've got a bunch of civilizations off developing their own things. So first we'll take a look at our settings here. You can see we're running at full 1920 by 1080 here. 2x for anti-aliasing, that's pretty good, full screen, and medium and high res video settings here, so that's pretty good. Certainly acceptable in terms of what it's going to look like. It will load up a game that has gone reasonably far along. We've got about 4 or 5 cities now here. We've discovered a couple of cultures, so there's reasonable load on the computer. And frame rates are in the 20s. Not so super duper impressive, but in this kind of game it's actually very playable because, well, there's no real great action going on here, so we could probably turn off anti-aliasing and set some of the effects down, and without having to give up our resolution to improve things a bit. You can see just panning around right here, we're doing good. Frames drop a little as we jump off to another continent, but overall so far so good. Now the turns obviously aren't super duper quick, and we're not very far into the game. They would be quicker if you had a full mobile CPU or certainly a desktop CPU, but I would call this playable. And now we'll try reducing our settings a little bit to see if we can get into the 30s for our frame rate. We'll turn off anti-aliasing and drop overlay detail down, shadow quality down. We'll set that to low. And let's see how these settings here. Some medium, some lows, no anti-aliasing. And that did the trick. We're in 34 or 35 frames per second here now. And even we swap continents, we're doing okay. So that's Civ 5 on the Asus Zenbook Prime UX32VD.